Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everyone, I am really excited to introduce today's guest, Gena Scurry. Gena is a self-proclaimed introvert. She loves people and she loves her alone time. Gena admits she is quirky, and it takes a large amount of effort to practice being social and being herself. But going back a few years, Gena attended an elementary Montessori school in Mexico while crossing the border every day from Texas. Years later, while in college, she took a year off and traveled around the world camping and rock climbing. Then she got her degree and started her first business with $5 and a bicycle trainings adults to speak Spanish. Eventually, she created a card game. That was about 9 years ago. Gena was going through a life transition, and she began meditating to ask herself, what's next for me in life? The answer she got was given to her as she was meditating. The answer was build a game. And it just felt so right to her. So she started to build a game. It is called Over Coffee. It's a card game. And it is designed to create conversations and connections. And we are going to hear a lot more about that. It's a really fun game. I've played it. So please join me in welcoming Gena Scurry. Thanks, Gena, for being here and enjoying us from your home office in Houston, Texas.
No, thanks, Tammy. Thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, I am too. So, Gena, as you know, on Work from the Inside Out, we love to begin at the beginning. I'm excited to hear more about your early years, your formative years. It sounds so interesting. Here we are in 2024. I can't imagine anyone in Texas in this day and age crossing the border to Mexico every day to go to school. Maybe there are people still doing that, but we live in such a different time now. So I'm really intrigued to hear about your early years.
Yeah, so you're right. Probably people don't do that anymore. But when I was a kid, my parents had moved down from Jersey, and my mom was very clear. She wanted her kids to go to a Montessori school, partially because my older sister had dyslexia, and she didn't want her to, she didn't want any teacher to tell her that she was not smart. So, and the Montessori school was in Juarez. So every day from I was 2 years old, we crossed the border every day. And there was a group of Americans, about 10 of us. And we went and we did that every day. And so I just really grew up thinking it's normal to speak English and Spanish. By the way, my parents don't speak any Spanish whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
In fact, my dad, I think he tells a story of, he says, do you think this is a great idea? Because I cannot understand my kids. We would get upset, my younger brother and I, and we would start, speaking Spanish to my dad. Understand whatsoever. So anyhow, so I did that. And then I came to the States. Well, started public school in 7th grade.
Okay.
And then I went to college. I fell in love with rock climbing. So I would save my money. I would work several jobs, save my money, but to lighten my load, I would take Spanish class. And in the end, I eventually just wanted to get out of school. So I just got a Spanish degree. They said, if you take this last class, you got a Spanish degree. And I was like, really? Okay, great.
So wait, I have a question for you. I'm gonna rewind the tape just a tiny bit.
Sure.
So you up until through 6th grade, so to speak, and I know Montessori works a little bit differently. You were day in, day out, crossing the border to Mexico it sounds like, crossing the border. I mean, I know many moons ago, I was in Texas and I crossed the border over into Juarez, and it was just like driving around the block, basically.
It was not a big deal.
It wasn't a big deal, but we know that today things are very different. So, but still, it was a very different environment, I'm sure. And I think about seventh grade. Seventh grade is kind of the beginning of those adolescent years, could be torturous adolescent years. And then on top of it, you were going to, a regular traditional mainstream public school. I'm just curious, and being an introvert, what was that like to go from that probably, I would think, kind of cozy, nice Montessori environment to a public mainstream school in the US? Was that a big adjustment, or what was that like? Do you remember?
I definitely remember it. So first thing, the thing about Montessori is you actually have it's very disciplined, but you have a lot of freedom. So for example, if this is back in the days when people could make Kool-Aid for, you could have and make your own beverage whenever you wanted, or if I want to chest or do art, you have a lot of freedom to choose what you want to do throughout the day and get up. Like you can just get up and walk around the classroom. When I came to public school, you have to sit down. You can't just walk out and go to the bathroom if you need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I didn't know so I couldn't read and write in English. I could speak English.
Oh.
So in Spanish, all the letters, they sound, there's just one sound. You just read phonetically. So one of the hardest things was learning how to read and write. It did not. So for example, the word teeth, like I have no idea how to spell that. And I remember my mom teaching me like the word the, and in Spanish that would have been sounded out de, because the H is silent. But in English, there's all kinds of rules in English regarding read. Regarding students, I think the thing I remember most is they were way more advanced. Like people were kissing in the locker room. Like I would never see that at my Montessori school.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say is the biggest.
It was a different social environment, I'm sure, on a lot of levels. I mean, and it was junior high school, basically, right?
Yeah. The other thing I remember too, though, was when I came to school, I loved learning. When I got to public school, I was like, I love to learn. I couldn't wait. And I noticed a lot of the other kids, they just weren't interested, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so that was surprising to me.
I would also imagine that some of your other classmates from the Montessori school might have also gone. Did some of them also go to the school that you went to, or?
They didn't. They ended up going to a private school. But some of the things that we have in common is our math skills were several years ahead. And so this friend of mine who went to a private all-girls Catholic school for several years had to just sit in the back because they weren't teaching it and they just thought she was a problem. But she already was several heads of, and that was my experience too, that I already knew a lot of the math. I understood how the math worked.
Wow. That's really interesting. And so when you went off to college, did you have any idea? Were you already rock climbing like in high school, or?
No, I wasn't rock climbing in high school. And I was kind of thinking about this after our conversation the other day in preparation for this, for our podcast. One of the biggest influences for me was my dad. And even though he's gone now, but I realized I'm very much like my dad. So he taught me how to ride a bike. And I thought this was normal, but literally he put me on a bicycle and pushed me down the hill and yelled, pedal backwards for the brakes. And I just thought that was normal. I was like, okay, well, now I know how to ride a bike. So when he taught me how to ride horses, I mean, I was about 10 years old. He put me on a 17-hand horse. He took my younger brother and put him on the horse with him. We went out. He showed us how to turn the horse, stop it. He said, don't ever grab the horn. We went out to the desert, ran up a mesa, said, grab the mane. We got to the top of the mesa. And he's like, okay, now we're going to get down and we're going to slide straight down the mesa. Lean back, and literally the horse slid down this mesa. And
you're going to have to, for one, all right, you're talking to a person who grew up in the suburbs of New York City. So in the burbs, really, of New York. So what is a mesa?
Oh, a mesa. It's like a mountain that's cut flat across.
Okay.
So it's mainly made of sand.
Ah, okay. I know what that looks like. I've seen them in pictures.
Yeah.
I've probably even seen them myself because I've been all over the country, but I wasn't quite sure what a mesa was. Okay, go ahead.
So anyhow, he then told me at the end of that, you can ride a horse anytime you want. And he would send us out into the desert and we would ride by ourselves. And so I was thinking about it, like I have this like go for it attitude.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize it, but looking back, I got that very much from my dad.
I can see why.
Yeah. And my dad was very much, and my mom, they're both entrepreneurs for that matter.
Oh, really?
They worked for themselves. My mom was very successful. My dad was not so successful.
Uh-huh.
But they're always, he's always thinking of new ideas.
Mm. Mm.
So when I went to college, I had heard about getting a job at Yellowstone National Park. Yeah. So the first summer I went up there and I worked as a waitress, and I met a lot of people who taught me how to backpack. And then on waiting for a ride back to Texas, like I had a friend who's going to pick me up across from the Tetons.
Yeah.
And these people pulled up and they said, do you want to go rock climbing? And I said, yeah. I left her a sign. I did. I left her a sign and I went up the hill with them and they taught me how to rock climb. She found me and we climbed. So pitch is like a full rope lengths. We did a 5-pitch climb the next day. And then on the way back, I got back to college and I took out a loan to buy rock climbing equipment.
Really?
Well, you could walk into the financial aid office.
Yeah.
And you just say, I need a $500 emergency loan. And
really? How did you know to do that?
Well, I actually think I had to I'm sorry, I'm like close to 50 now. The truth is I actually needed a loan for my own college.
Yeah.
And then my friend, she got the money so she could buy the rock climbing gear. And so my mom always said, hey, just walk into the financial aid office. They'll give you the money. Of course, you have to pay it back.
That's so interesting.
So then I just, if I loved it, I did it. And I just met people along the way and eventually started traveling in the summer times. I would save money. And I think I had traveled one summer, with my boyfriend. And at the end of that, I had to go back to school, but there weren't a lot of strong female rock climbers.
Mm-hmm.
But there was another one from Austin who I saw up in Colorado. And when we saw each other in Texas, she said, hey, I said, we should travel sometime together because I'm kind of tired of traveling with men all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, yeah, sure. Where do you want to go? And I said, well, I want to go to Thailand, South Africa, Europe, South America. And she called me the next day and she said, okay, well, what's your last name? And then we just saved our money and we went a year later.
Wow.
So that's it.
So a lot of your time in college you spent focused on rock climbing. I know that. And you studied Spanish, even though you were fairly proficient in it. It was kind of would you say it was the path of least resistance in some ways, but it doesn't sound like it was real. It it was a constructive thing to do, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like you were saying my future is in the Spanish language.
Oh, I had no idea what my future was in. Yeah, it was at the least resistance.
Yeah.
I mean, I did get an honors degree, and to be honest, for many years I would have a nightmare about like that I didn't finish college.
Oh. So it mattered to you to get a degree, and so you made that happen, but you were less concerned with the actual subject area.
Yeah, I had no plan. I was like,
okay. Your plan was to rock climb, it sounds like.
Apparently, yeah.
And so you worked and saved money and went on trips, and then worked and saved money, and so that was your but that was sort of the way you did it. And when you finished school, you also, I know, went the entrepreneurial route like your parents had.
Yes.
So, because I know, for the listeners, I find it fascinating that in most of your life, I mean, other than those early years while you were in school, you really have, since you graduated, have never been anyone else's employee.
Yes, that is true. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't think it's one way or the other, actually. I think it's interesting though, because I think most people I know, not everyone, our mutual friend, Jeffrey Shaw, he's always been self-employed his entire life. But I would say most people I know probably graduated from school, and at least their first income source out of school was probably some kind of employment, even if they eventually became an entrepreneur or self-employed in some way. So it's just different paths. It's just most people, when they first get out of school, they want to look for a source of income that might be somewhat regular or steady. And so self-employment doesn't usually provide that.
Well, I think for me, I just, thinking about rock climbing and camping, I knew I could live on a shoestring.
Yeah.
I did. So, I mean, at the time I was paying rent for a couch, and, I knew I could I could teach people to rock climb. But anyhow, I started teaching Spanish and it was really, somebody asked me, what could you do? And I said, well, I speak Spanish. She said, why don't you teach me Spanish? And I said, okay, but we're going to do it differently. And the way I taught Spanish was very distinct, because I always knew to speak Spanish, you actually have to speak Spanish.
Right.
And so I would train people, I would reorient them towards speaking rather than just learning Spanish. You got to do both. And then
I totally love this, because I took years of Spanish, and I'm useless when it comes to that. So
I trained them in a series of phrases. And what I often found that I dealt with when they were in my course, so we do this all before them signing up, is because they could see if they learned the right phrases to manage a conversation, they actually could start practicing their Spanish with anyone, anytime, anywhere. So, and I told them, here's the game. We're going to talk to strangers, neighbors, coworkers, family members, you name it. And what they would say would get in the way is more, I don't want to look silly or foolish.
Right.
I don't have enough time. I don't want to bother people. All our normal insecurities that come up.
Sure.
So I would ask that they set that aside and go do it anyhow. So throughout the course, they began to know themselves. They would move past those reasons. And I would say that the same applies for any endeavor that you take on. We all have our reasons for why not to do it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So you started off with one person asking you to teach them Spanish, but that ended up turning into an entire business for you.
It did.
So, and how long did you do that for? I mean, it really grew. You had people working for you and everything, didn't you?
I did. I think I had, God, I want to say, I think I did that for about 17 years.
Wow.
I eventually got a car. I got a cell phone.
And you did more than pay rent on a couch after that.
Yes.
Point,
I actually,
right?
I had big contracts. I had employees both in Austin and in Houston. What was your question you were asking me?
Well, I was just curious about how the business, grew over time, and that you were no longer just renting a couch to sleep on. And
here's what I would say about it. So it did grow over time. I did get a business coach. He taught me a lot in this sense, because you go through all the various phases, right? I was utterly terrified the majority of that time. Not all of the years, but
what were you terrified about?
Well, just making rent, just making enough money. Where am I going to get my next paycheck? In the beginning, that was very true. And I remember him telling me, I told him how scared I was. And he said, feelings, it's just a thing, like a paper. That's it. That's all it is. And he said, can you have this feeling like paper and go take action? And I said, yeah. And so I did. Next person I bumped into wanted to take Spanish with me. And so I did that. And then he had me promise I would keep my word no matter what happened for two years straight. Because you would go through all the ups and downs.
Sure.
In that period.
Yeah. So that really helped you to get over some of the sort of sales and marketing fears and things like that?
Yeah. Whatever it was that I was dealing with at the time, it had me, and I think this is true in life. I think really all you have is your word, like what you give yourself, your promise to, your word to yourself.
Yeah.
And when you're really going for something, your mind will mess with you. And if you and it doesn't mean like you won't have sensations or feelings, but it's just so important to go, okay, I got that, and still honor what you said. And you'll be surprised, you'll come through it.
Yeah.
You'll get through it. Thinking about the game, I remember to myself thinking, okay, this is how I would phrase it to myself, because I'm in year 9 of my game. And I often relate to it like I let go of the shore and I still can't see the shore. Now I can see the shore, but for a period there, I had no idea, but I was going to still take action.
Right. You're still going to swim.
Exactly.
That was a swimming metaphor. So 7, I want to just connect the dots here around this. So you were running the Spanish business, and at some point during that 17 years, you got married, you started a family, you have 2 children, and then something changed.
Yes, I got divorced.
Right? You got divorced, and that's when you started meditating. Was during the end of your marriage, I'm guessing. So, and it was during a meditation that you received a message of some type. Yeah. It said, build a game.
Yeah. I asked how the money's going to work.
Oh, right. You asked how money is going to work?
In my meditation, it said, build a game. And me being who I am, I said, great. I'll give myself 3 years. That's what I'll do.
That was your response?
That was my response. I didn't ask you.
Isn't that interesting? Because I could see someone else going, huh? What? Build a game? What? And you said, and your answer was, I'll give it 3 years.
Yeah, my answer was like, I'm going to give myself 3 years. Wow. And I worked on it. I've never built a game.
Did you have any idea what this would look like, this game? It's like, I'll give it 3 years to build a game. What kind of game are we talking about? Indoor, outdoor, little?
I thought it would be like a physical game. Originally, I thought it would be like a board game. And I was teaching Spanish, and I had told my students at the time, I'm going to build this game. And originally I thought maybe it would be the embodiment of my work, like some kind of Spanish game to help people like, I didn't know what it was going to be, but that was the original. And so the original game so really technically I've created 2 games.
Right.
So what I did is I invited I said I was going to build a game. I gave them a date, and then I didn't do anything. But I said, well, come meet me tomorrow and we'll just brainstorm, and whoever wants to come. And so a group of them did come, and I just took pieces out of various different games. My kids still complain about it today because we don't have all the pieces to our games. And I took them and we just started working, and it was clear to me 2 of the 3 that showed up were board game enthusiasts.
I see.
And it turns out they had a special table in their house that they played games on.
Oh.
They were both engineers for Chevron.
Oh, interesting.
And so I said, okay, great, let's work together. They wanted to take more Spanish, so I traded with them. I typically do that. And I said, you know what? I'll teach you Spanish. We'll do so many sessions working together. And so they were kind of my first team I worked with. And then that relationship what I learned, I really believe you have people who work with you, and then they fulfill that portion of the project.
Sure. Yeah.
You move on to your next team. And then sure enough, I was kind of working on the visuals.
I see.
And the next person that came into my Spanish program, she had a drip drop creative. Her name was Glenn. I used to call her Glinda the Good Witch. Yeah. Anyhow, her email was drip drop creative, and her husband came and did my program. But because of who she was in marketing. I was like, I want to work with you. So we started working together. Again, that I got so far with her. She's really wonderful. That ended. And then there's a period where you're not sure what's next.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked it out to where that first game, I couldn't figure out how to do the box. So I put everything in cigar boxes.
So so up till that point, you were moving forward in terms of creating or iterating about this game, thinking it might be a board game, or that it would be something that would be folded into the current business you had at the time of teaching Spanish. So it was like, build a game so that I can continue to teach people Spanish. Like it sounds like it was something that was going to be part and parcel to your business, although it could stand on its own.
I was hoping it would stand on its own, to be honest. Like I had a number in my head that I would sell it for X amount of money. And
then continue teaching Spanish.
No, I was kind of at the end of teaching Spanish, even though I was really good at it.
You were ready to be done with that?
Yeah, people loved my program, but it wasn't, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but yeah, it fulfilled it. That business fulfilled its purpose, I would say, for me. Like, meaning not necessarily financially, but I think I learned what I needed to learn. And then it was just time. Like the only way I can describe it is it's when you're in a business and you're like, you know what? I'm glad I did it, and it's time to create the next thing. And so Spanish Over Coffee, which was my original business, it was time for me to create the next thing. And I did stay in there for a few years, just make it work. Like, I'll get out of that. But it wasn't changing. So then when I created the game, it just really, it put new life into me, to be honest. And that's really what I wanted to pursue. So I stopped eventually teaching Spanish. I was like, I don't want to do it anymore.
I see.
People would call me.
So they were separate from the game. Developing the game really became separate from the business. But you did decide, at least at that juncture or that point, that the game was going to be in Spanish. I know it is not now, but at the time you were developing that game in Spanish. And was there a time where you had developed it as a board game? Because I know it's really a deck of cards now.
Well, along the way, so we were working on a board game, and then along the way, we couldn't make the board work, so we took it out.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
let's just make it a card game.
I see. I see. But was it always a game that um that built connections between people? Like I'm curious, like how many iterations, not that you have to give me an exact number,
That's okay.
but it sounds like you spent several years and you had a few different groups of people that you worked with over time. So this really iterated for a while, it sounds like.
Yeah, I would say it took me 5 years to get to the final first product where I put it in cigar boxes.
Okay.
And really, it truly did end up becoming the embodiment of my prior work. So my first game really has the tool cards. Um, and when, so the only thing is you need a native speaker, bilingual speaker to play with. So I would say space over coffee, native speaker not included was the top. And people would have game nights. And so people would come from literally the suburbs of Houston, because I live kind of in the center of Houston, and they were supposed to bring native speakers. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't, but a lot of times I was providing a lot of the native speakers.
Sure.
And as I was working forever to try to figure out how to do the box, remember, I didn't know anything about design or Illustrator, Photoshop, like none of that. Right. And just about when I was about to like just do my own box, because I would hire marketing companies and they would tell me and they never knew how to do it either. Somebody walked into my kitchen and she goes, "Oh, I know all about paper. I worked for Dell for years. I could tell you how to do this. No problem." So I worked with her, and when I met her partner, and her name's Tina Schweiger, I was just, the moment I met her partner, I knew I wanted to work with her.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. It was, I don't know if it's her being, but I know my team too felt the same way.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big believer in you don't always need to know what the next step is.
Yeah.
Like it will, when it's time, it will show up. And the right people will come into your life. And I don't know, that might be a little magical thinking, but that's just kind of how I operate.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, easy for me to say, but the best way to sort of prove what you're saying is to look 2020 hindsight, right? And think about how many things in our lives occurred when we weren't looking for them. And they were just right. Or how many times in our lives did we have something happen that even though we might have set some sort of intention and really wanted something to happen, it wasn't necessarily that it happened in exactly the way we intended it to, but the outcome did, it met with our intention, but the way in which it happened or the people that were involved, we could never have predicted that. And I think that a lot of people do seem to want to know what's going to happen before it happens. And I understand that makes people uncomfortable if they don't know what's going to happen. But I always say, you don't have a crystal ball. None of us does, or at least nobody I know does. And so to think that, or to have some level of trust or faith that whatever is going to need to happen will happen, it really takes some kind of a sense of, I think, faith or trust that, something will show up that needs to happen. It sounds very almost kind of woo-woo coachy. And that's not really who I am, but it does seem to happen over and over again like that when people almost like let go of their expectations and just show up to their own lives.
Yeah, no, that's my experience.
Yeah.
Otherwise, my experience is when I don't honor that, I feel dead. I feel like I just want to be alive. That's it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the future holds, but I just want to keep taking actions. And I just trust that whatever, like the next the next piece will reveal itself. And if it doesn't turn out, it's okay. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I hear you loud and clear. But also, I think we show up for things. I think that's where we have to sort of recognize when we're afraid of something or we're holding ourselves back from something, that we may be missing sort of even the trees through the forest, so to speak. I know that usually you talk about the forest through the trees, but I think sometimes we just need to allow ourselves to just show up and notice what's right in front of us, to be able to allow certain things just to happen.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's trust. I was told once, when inspired, say yes. Like if you're inspired, that's God talking. Say yes. And so I just take that on. And I do my best to always honor that. And I've done things like I went on while I was building the game. I was inspired by doing the Montessori training. So I went and did the Montessori training. Now, let me just tell you, no light training. I tried to quit and they wouldn't let me quit.
Really?
Like getting a master's degree, but I'm so happy I did it. The way I view kids is completely different nowadays. The way I interact with my own kids. And I think actually will help me develop. It gave me just a different viewpoint in developing games, but I didn't have a reason behind it other than
doing the training.
Yeah, I didn't have a reason other than I was inspired. I was curious. So I said yes.
So you were inspired, you were curious to do the Montessori training just to do it because it was part of your own experience, but not necessarily thinking, oh, maybe I'll become a teacher.
Well,
you were already a teacher.
It was mainly that. It was mainly that. Okay, it's that. And also I thought, just in case, this will be a good backup plan.
Okay. So there was that, because there is that side of you. I mean, thinking about, there was that part of you that said, that wanted to finish college. It wasn't like, I think that's an important thing to point out here because, because there's this part of you that says, I allow things just to kind of show up. Like you have, I think, a monthly game night at your home now, and you let people into your home who you don't know.
Yeah.
And so, there are a lot of people who would not feel comfortable with that. And yet you've met all these amazing people.
Yeah, I love it. I looked around the last game night and I thought, because I'd been doing it for a year, and I thought, oh my God, I've met, none of these people were in my life prior to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I know really incredible stories about them.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and you and I have talked about this before. It's like, I'm always a little, maybe because I grew up in the New York area and, we lock every door, we check every window, and
we lock our doors in Houston too, by the way. I would not leave my computer in my car ever.
But there's always this sense of, you're cautious around people you don't know. And so it's not about living from a place of fear necessarily, but there is something about opening up your personal space, your home, to, people that you don't know. And
I don't know. I really believe people are good. And I remember having a boyfriend and he was telling me all the bad things that happen in the world. And I just told him, I really don't want to know. I'd rather just be blissfully happy and just be killed in the moment. Like, that's how I want to go. So I don't want to know about all the things. Like, I walk my dog at night by myself. I'm just like happy. I don't know. Night world.
Yeah. And I think that's the way you are. That's the way you need to live. I think there's a lot of people walking around in fear all the time, and they're not. My point about this wasn't to say, was to be of any kind of judgment or anything, as much as to say, because you do things like that, you show up for things, things are going to present themselves to you. I think there's obviously, a whole spectrum of ways that people can show up in their lives and allow things in to happen, right? And so the way that it makes perfect sense that because you've designed a game that enables people to connect in a genuine and authentic way with each other, that you would allow people you didn't know previously to come to your home and play the game. I also think you trust your instincts and your intuition, and it's done very well by you. So, it's not like you're just simply, grabbing people off the street and saying, come into my house. There's ways in which you meet various people and have invited them in.
And let me just back up a little bit. So I think, we were talking about the game being bilingual originally, like Spanish, English, and then you already know this, but there was a point where I took out the Spanish completely.
Yeah. How did you decide that?
Actually, my ex-husband set me up on a blind date. And it was with a guy who used to do product development for REI, and he was traveling the nation camping. He's like, this guy is perfect for you. My model, I only had one model at the time, and it arrived that day. And so we played it with his buddies from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning. And he spoke French and English, and we both agreed it was a great game. Just take out the Spanish. For now, you can launch the other one later, but for now, take out the Spanish. So when I went to go, I produced my first 500 games of just in English. I didn't really know what I had, to be honest. And then how I said in the beginning, I'm an introvert. And once you produce something, the next thing is you got to get out there and sell it. Right? And it took me a little while. Those things weren't flying out the window. So I just said, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to have a potluck. And I started with friends.
Oh, yeah.
Your friends only go so far.
Yeah.
So then I started stalking people. Not really. I would be at the coffee shop, working on something, and somebody'd sit down next to me, and I would just say to them, somewhere in the conversation, I go, hey, because I knew my game night was coming. I say, hey, I invented a game. I'd love for you to come. It's a potluck, BYOB, because I got to keep my expenses down. Would you like to come? And they would say yes. And so they would send me their number. I'd send them a text with my home address. I'd follow up with them a week prior. And sure enough, people started coming. And I told them they could bring anybody they wanted.
Yeah.
And then I would invite people in the locker room. And I invited my baker. And I had my Uber driver once, the discount tire guy, my mailman, professors from the University of Rice. And that's kind of what I really love about it is these, I'm just thinking it's very, if I think about my life, it's just very organic. It's not like I had a plan.
Right. Yeah, no, it seems
clear.
like a lot of your life didn't happen that way. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the game itself? Because we're talking about the game. We know it is a deck of cards, but we don't know much about how it works. If there's a way to tell us in a brief way what the game entails.
Absolutely. So there's 36 topic cards or 35 topic cards, and each one has 4 subtopics. But they are topics like values, marriage and divorce. There's lighter topics, art, kids, family. There's politics. There's touchy subjects. There's everything under the rainbow.
Yes, there's a range, right, of very neutral, light topics, and then there's some, definitely some topics that would be you might be hesitant to bring into certain groups.
Yeah, most people would not talk about politics or abortion or those hot topics. They don't like to talk about that.
But those are all included.
They're in the game.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, though, remember, because the game was bilingual originally, is it has 100, it's the top 100 verbs used in English.
Ah,
And
okay.
the way you play is everybody at the table, and you can play like in groups of 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, or even just one-on-one. But each person will have 3 random verb cards.
Uh-huh.
And then the person who grabs the topic card will, and I call them the storyteller, will choose to answer one of the subtopics. So they answer that, and then the next player is going to ask a follow-up question using one of their verb cards. Now, and you do that 3 times. So let's say that the storyteller answers, the second player to their left will ask another follow-up question regarding what they're talking about using one of their verb cards, and then you do it a 3rd time, and then you move on to the next storyteller. And this is the thing that has surprised me and inspired me so much about the game is, I really didn't know what I had until I started playing, but the game is really teaching me. And all those who are playing, for that matter. So it's taught me, as an introvert, it's taught me to really, like, one, I asked myself once, like, who wrote these questions? But I know to be known, you have to risk yourself and just truly be yourself. So the first time I played, I really said what the real answer is. And I just had this experience, like, I didn't die. People had great questions. But I think the thing I really, really love about the game is the verb cards. Because oftentimes when people are talking, regarding serious or light, we say, wow, that's amazing. How cool. We don't ask a follow-up question.
Right.
And the only thing you can do in the game is ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
The second thing about the verb cards is when we ask follow-up questions, sometimes we get locked into the typical follow-up question, like we have an agenda behind it.
Yes.
Or we just get stuck in those same questions. And we don't do it on purpose, but it's just what's there.
Yeah.
Because of the verb cards, it makes you think more creatively about your question. And so the conversation, I mean, it's amazing what comes out of these conversations. And then the third thing I've learned is, because I'm not, let's say somebody else is a storyteller.
Yeah.
Let's say we talk about politics, right? Because I'm not ever going to answer that topic card during this round of play. And my job is to ask a follow-up question using a random verb card. I'm truly listening.
Yes.
Because my rebuttal, I'm not going to have an opportunity to share my rebuttal.
Right.
And so it has taught me, for example, with my boyfriend, sometimes we butt heads, and I think, okay, hold on a second. Let me just ask you some follow-up questions using random verbs. And I'll share my side another day, but not today. And it really kind of just stops all the nonsense. And it's quite amazing. And I'm left with, when people leave my house, I'm in love with them. I just met them that night, and I am just blown away by humanity and who people are. And I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat. I don't care where you come from. Yeah. People are amazing.
And I happen to know, because you and I talk on a regular basis, that you have had, people in your home for these game nights who do have varied, political interests. So it's fascinating. And I've played the game a couple of times, and it's, even though the topics can get very serious, there's something really fun about it, which is just kind of an interesting juxtaposition. Would you also tell the people listening where they can find the game? Because you redesigned it a little bit, even though the game is basically the same. After you pretty much cleaned out your initial 500 printing, you realized you had to do something about it. So you redesigned the packaging and everything, and now it's available to more of a mass market in the US, at least.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we do have people listening from other countries here. So they would have to access it through the US to get it. So tell us
Yes.
how
So you
people can get their hands on the game.
So you can buy the game on Amazon. You just put in Over Coffee Game or Over Coffee Card Game. You should find it. It's a yellow cover. And then, or you can go to my website, overcoffeegames.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you can get it at the moment.
Yeah. And that's how people can reach you as well. They can go to your website. And I know that you're on other social media and that you've been playing with TikTok lately. And that will be going live soon after this episode airs.
I like the TikTok project because I've been playing with people on Zoom, and then we've been dividing those videos up. And so you have this, the conversations have been phenomenal. I played with my younger brother, and he shared about one of his guiding principles was unconditional love. He's sitting in he's an engineer, okay? He's at his home office and he's talking about unconditional love. And
love it.
You can just see him really think, when I asked him the follow-up questions, really thinking about the question. And I just think people need to hear about that. And had another friend talk about mental health. And so anyhow, I'm really looking forward to getting those videos out on TikTok too.
Yeah. And I could see where some of those videos would probably do really well on your website too. Yeah,
on my website. I don't know who, we'll see.
Because not everybody's on TikTok, and who knows,
but I might put them up on LinkedIn. So if you just
there
look
you
up
go.
Gena Scurry on LinkedIn, that's
the way to do it. Well, Gena, this has been amazing. I'd love to ask you one final question before we wrap up.
Please.
Even though I think you've kind of answered this already, but I'll ask you anyway, because I ask all my guests this question. And that is, a lot of people listening to this really, are thinking about what's next for them. And I'm wondering if you have a key piece of advice for people who are possibly entering into a period of some kind of change, or just trying to start to think about something that's next for them. What would be your advice for them?
I would say, if inspired, say yes. And I don't care if that's small or big. It could be, if you're inspired to take a water class, say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Say yes to those things. That's what I would say.
All right. Well, that was a very inside out answer, so I appreciate that. Gena, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh my God, I love fun. I loved it. Thank you, Tammy, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you. And I encourage everybody to get their hands on Gena's game.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around to the end of my interview with Gena Scurry. What is your key takeaway from our conversation? If you are interested in any of the resources mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them in the show notes on my website at tammygulerloeb.com/podcast. Just look for episode 250. While you're there, you can also subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. And if you're feeling it, please help me to inspire more people to grow their careers by building the visibility of the podcast by clicking on the Apple Podcasts button. Leave an honest rating and brief review there. Are you anticipating your next professional move? Check out my award-winning book, Work from the Inside Out, Break Through 9 Common Obstacles and Design a Career That Fulfills You. It's available through my website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or through your local library. You can also help sustain the podcast by buying me a cup of coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TammyGL. Since I keep the podcast ad-free and it is self-funded, your support is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.